right. So my name is Arthur Grabowski, not a typo. And so I wanted to share with you some of the work we've done over the past few months on Puppy Test. So Puppy Test is a tool for people to figure out if they should adopt a dog. So to sort of set the stage, dog ownership is a huge part of American life. The Humane Society estimates that 47% of households in the US own a dog. So to put that into perspective in terms of annual dog acquisition, that's 7 million dogs per year. So that's a huge opportunity for pet products, such as the Puppy Test, for pet services. It also creates a problem, and that problem is a unique opportunity for Puppy Test. So around 4 million dogs end up in shelters every year for various reasons. And unfortunately, just over 1 million of those are euthanized every year. So there are various reasons for this, but these are all adoptable dogs. And when you think about of the 7 million dogs that are adopted every year, the 5.8 million that are purchased from breeders or from pet stores, we just have to replace a fourth of those with adoptions from shelters to get rid of this problem. And so I think Puppy Test can help. So why does this happen? People make the decision to buy animals based on limited information. So I spent some time in dog parks talking with dog owners, and I asked them various questions, including when you were thinking about adopting a dog, how much did you consider the time commitment and the budget in your decision? And got various answers. Usually people consider budget more. So then I asked, after you purchased your dog, you adopted your dog, how did that compare to what you expected? And 70% of people ended up finding that either the time or the budget or both exceeded their expectations. That's how dogs end up in shelters. So we created the Puppy Test, which is a way for you to try before you buy. Now, it is a virtual pet that lives on your phone. And this may bring back memories of Tamagotchis, but it's different. It's not a game. This is a simulation. And so you go in and you create a dog. You pick the breed, age, name, and so forth. And then there are various activities, whether it's walking your dog, feeding your dog. Oh, so that's my current puppy, Joe. He's looking for a little attention. We'll get to him in a sec. You can feed your dog, walk your dog, or you can just turn the app off, and the notifications, they drive the system, and they tell you when you need to interact with your puppy. All these activities take time, so it simulates the time it takes to actually take care of an animal. At the end of the time period, whether it's 7 days or maybe just 1 day, we tell you how you did. So before I jump into the actual demo, I wanted to set the stage for who's going to use this. Who are we going after? So number one, parents. So kids often come to their parents and they say, hey, can we get a dog? Now, the kids don't know how much work this is going to be, nor do the parents often. So this is an opportunity for a parent to install the app on their child's either phone or a shared family device and test how this is going to go. Partners are another one. Same thing, 2 people living together. One of them maybe wants a dog more than the other. This is a good way for them to test. And that's parents, partners, and pilots. I never miss an opportunity for alliteration. So I use the persona of pilots because I think it personifies that young professional who doesn't have a lot of time at home and wants to figure out, can they actually handle owning a dog? So if you bear with me for just a sec, we're going to jump over here to the actual demo. So as you can see, we've gotten a couple notifications here. Oh, and there's also a low battery. So, so the notification that we got here was we're gonna take Joe for a walk. So this is the one activity that is sort of a temporary placeholder in that this is not actually right now using GPS. We're demoing just what this would look like if you're actually outside using the app. But essentially, when you want to walk a dog, you have to walk outside, start the app, and it uses GPS to track how far you've walked. So you actually have to commit to walking your dog, and we tell you how well you've done. This activity, you can partially finish it. You'll get partial credit for doing it. Now, I'm going to show you, just start over. I'm going to show you how this actually works. So I'm going to end the test and start another one. So in here, I'm going to go in, and I'm going to create, I'm going to pick a Maltese. I like those guys. I'm going to create another Joe. Sorry, Joe number 1. And this day length, that's just for purposes of testing. So in here, we can go in and we can, for example, play with a dog. Now these are low fidelity still activities, but it shows what this is going to look like. This is an activity at the top of the screen. You can see how many balls we have to throw. The dog comes and fetches it. Yes, that is the Windows XP background on the back of the screen. And so you do as many of these as you want. Again, this is one you can finish partially, and it's OK if you only complete part of it. There are other ones like feed, where you actually have to complete the whole activity. You put the bone in the bowl, and then there's a delay. And this is, again, simulating the time it takes to actually feed the dog. Again, for the purpose of this demo, we're showing 5 bones, but again, that would change. Now, this is an activity. I'm actually going to run through this one, because this is one where you have to complete it to get credit for it. You can't half feed your dog. You can't half fill the bowl. It's going to take the whole time. So for these activities, there's a quota for the day, and these activities are triggered at specific points in the day. So here we're going to finish the last bone, successfully fed him. Walk we already saw, and I'm just going to show you clean. Clean you would never trigger yourself. Clean will happen if it's a puppy. It'll happen randomly during the day. If it's an adult dog, it is a consequence of not walking your dog. So here I'm actually on the phone. You can't see it, but I'm scrubbing the screen, which is getting rid of these paws. So you would do that until you get however many of them we need. Again, I'm not going to finish that just to get through the demo. Now, what happens is at the end, I'm going to trigger the end of the test, which normally would happen at the end of the time period. And this shows how did you do. So there are essentially three outcomes of the puppy test. I looped into something here. So the 3 things that will happen is you will either successfully have taken care of your dog, and it'll say, hey, adopt a dog. You may have just really not done a good job. You weren't feeding him, weren't walking, and so on. And it'll tell you you should either do the test again or maybe hold off. Or there's a third option, which is you fed the dog, you cleaned after the dog, that all went well. You didn't quite walk or play enough, so maybe think about getting a less active breed. So bear with me for one more second. We'll jump over one last time to here. OK. So what next? So development. Development's a huge question. And so right now, I'm actually working with one of the developers, one of the 2 great developers that worked on the Spencer. We're trying to figure out if we can continue working on this together. Spencer's not only a great developer, but also knows this thing inside and out. And so really hoping we can continue down this process and get this thing into the App Store. So funding, we're obviously hoping to leave here with some funds to finish development. That said, as a former engineer, I know how expensive development is. And so we'd go to Kickstarter for both funding and for buzz. Just for some perspective, a Fitbit for dogs called BitBark was on Kickstarter last year, was trying to raise $35,000 and raised $80,000. So there's definitely demand for animal-type products on Kickstarter. And then lastly, partnerships. This is very exciting. So I've spent some time over the past few weeks talking with organizations like the Anti-Cruelty Society and PAWS. And the response from them is overwhelming. So Anti-Cruelty Society, I was chatting with earlier this week with the head of new business development there. And she wants to get their organization on our platform and is more than happy for us to advertise our offering with the Anti-Cruelty Society. It was the easiest sale I've ever made. So that said, puppy test is actually part of a larger vision. So when you think about what the puppy test is, we're very cognizant of the fact that there is a limited engagement with the users because you're just going to install the app and do a 1-day test, a 7-day test, or so on. But we want the users to stay engaged. Whether that's for advertising or any other revenue streams, if we want this to grow, that's important to us. So we're thinking about this as a pet management tool. And so we can add, at the end of the puppy test, we want to sync up with local shelters and tell you these dogs that fit your activity level, a desired activity level, are available at this shelter right around the corner. Now, after you do that, we want to help you track pet training and vaccines and have the app stay with the owner throughout the pet's life. Now, the other interesting thing that came up, I mentioned Leslie earlier at the Anti-Cruelty Society. When I mentioned this to her, she said, this is great. We're really interested. Can you make a cat test? And yes, what we're doing here is we're not only creating this virtual pet tool, we're creating a decision-making platform. So there are easy ones. There's something like the cat test. There's also the baby test. It's actually a very similar process you go through and one that's not questioned maybe enough. And then who knows, maybe we expand to other things like the roommate test, which again uses a very similar thought process and could really leverage what we're building here. So that's what we've done right now. We're very excited about the MVP. The product has pretty much all the features we wanted to have at this point for testing. Reaction has been fantastic from users, and hope that you guys get to try it. Thank you. Yeah.
So one question I have is about how. That's okay, no problem.
Done.
I'm just wondering how this product differs from 3 categories of things that are already in the market. First of all, one that you mentioned, right? So digital pets like Tamagotchi.
Yep.
Second of all, simulations that are already out there, like the Pet series or Food Pets, that tend more toward breeding, but also have kind of the raising process built into them. And finally, kind of social media simulations like Petville or Pet Society.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering how this would stand out from those kinds of simulations and games.
They're mostly games. So that's one thing. And so they are, in most of those activities, like if you want to feed a dog, you press a button and it feeds them. And what we're really trying to simulate is the time commitment. And those don't do a great job of that. And so we want to make sure, whether it's walking, you actually have to go outside and you have to walk the dog or your phone. And so that is really what we're trying to get across. We're not just trying to show you a notification. You have to walk your dog at 7 and at 5. That's not it. At 7 and at 5, you have to go out for 20 minutes and actually do it. And so the other offerings out there don't really do a good job of that. Yep.
Archer, great app. So
thank you.
I'm wondering about so I think it's great that you are sort of managing the sort of pre-acquisition and then all the way through the life cycle of pet. I'm a little curious about the expectations of your users during their sort of pre-acquisition stage and how engaged they're going to be with the app.
Yeah.
As far as going through, and I think it's cute that you can clean
Yeah.
it and everything else.
Yeah.
Would it? And I think I think it would be great during the life cycle, for example, the training phase. Once you have the pet, to actually and it barks at you, say, okay, well it's time to go out and go for a walk.
Yeah.
Would it be? Have you thought about, for example, and I know all the activity varies by breed and everything else. Have you thought about displaying sort of pie charts and different kinds of graphics, rather than having them go through an entire simulation, which is very, I mean, it's a very, sort of expensive in terms of time.
Yes.
So have you thought about that?
Yeah, so the 3 sort of segments that we talked about at the beginning, I definitely think that at the beginning, it will, I want to target the kids. I want to go after that segment. And with that segment, I think the visualization stuff doesn't hit home. I mean, that might hit home for the parents, but not for the kids. I think for the kids, kind of having to go through the process, that'll make them realize, yeah, this is a real thing. This really takes time. So I think from that point of view, that's why this has been the priority. I think that's an interesting point, and I think that targets more of the sort of maybe partners or pilots sort of down the line.
Great.
In the immortal words of Inspector Clouseau, does your doggy bite?
So, it's interesting. There's a whole slew of other activities that we would love to build into this, including positive feedback. That is something that we want to include. So randomly during the day, an activity that takes no time, doesn't cost you anything, and it's just your dog came up to snuggle with you, or whatever. Like your dog is just being nice, and that is there are all kinds of other activities that absolutely I think would add to this.
Or is growling at you because you're approaching your doggy when she or he is eating.
Yeah, it's true, and I think that's I think it's fantastic. There are all kinds of ancillary features this can add, and also there is sort of going to that point. There's a randomness component to all of this, and so things are on a schedule in this app, but they all happen a little randomly too. And so it's not like you're just you start the app and you're on rails for a week every day at this time you're doing this. Like things change, especially if you adopt a puppy. So
it'd be great if you had a little section for your vet's information. You can just dial them up, on the fly.
yeah,
Also, I was thinking about the previous presenter, but maybe researching articles in veterinary journals and that kind of thing. If your dog is sick,
yeah,
try to maybe diagnose the problem without
Yep.
Before you call the vet, kind of thing.
yeah. It's interesting. Our sort of idea list is huge because going to that point, it'd be great then. First of all, I think that's a great opportunity for revenue also if we get to partner with vets. But there's the opportunity also, I mean, we don't have to deal with quite as many HIPAA type issues as with people. And so you could use this as, you take a picture of a dog's ear infection, send it to your vet. And so yeah, in terms of the pet management tool side of this, I think the sky's the limit.
I would point out there's a certain market for a guppy test.
It's a framework. Awesome. Thank you.